what they do in the schools here in Huntsville is they won't let them take that homework home. Because I had that with my 11-year-old, because we went and we asked the teacher, why can't he do this at home? And they said, because you're intelligent, essentially, okay? And you have been educated. So they want to do it in the classroom so that everybody's at this same level playing ground. And I just thought that was absurd. I've got a little different background than perhaps you folks had. I'd had 8 years of a church private school, and then followed by a public school in high school. So there really wasn't this issue of being motivated. There wasn't this issue of some of the other things in people not performing. Okay, so I can't offer as much as what some of you folks have done. But the one thing I would ask all of us is, there are a lot of tough choices that would have to be made at the state level on schools, and some of them have to do with the huge infrastructure that we have. If you do some benchmarking against other states, for instance, and you looked at this state and you looked at some of the higher learning institutions, there are some 6 to 7 institutions that award a 4-year engineering degree. Now, if I go over and look at the state of Georgia, how many are there? 1. It's a world-class institution. It became that because during the Depression, they saw that there was too much infrastructure spread out, so they put it all into Georgia Tech.
Right.
Look where it is now. I'm not saying we go down to 1 institution, but do we need 6 or 7? 3 sounds pretty good to me. Auburn, Alabama, UAH, and they could team up with A&M, okay, because they're right next to each other. I'm just saying, those are really hard things to do because there's so many entrenched interests. You're fighting AA.
But those kind of ideas are what we need to bring to the table to, use the economy as it scales rather than spread that out. We can use the current structure in the system.
Use the web-based education, the distance learning, which, by the way, most of these institutions do have distance learning, but it's the coupling into.
But the problem with their distance learning is not that they're not connected, and that's why a statewide virtual university allows students to take classes at other institutions and receive credit at their current institution. So you create the economy of scale, and you save revenue.
And you're using those classrooms or whatever
that are already existing. You didn't have to build it because it's a virtual classroom.
Let me interrupt just a second as the moderator. I need to do this. Several of us may need to go because of the campaign commitments and all that. So it's past 10:30 right now. I know, Mary, you've got to go. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And I wanted to go ahead and let you.
Thank you. I will break out. And
we can do this again some other time.
Yes.
It's an easy setup here, and we'd like to get Sam in, but let's see if we can't do another one in the future.
Thanks, Alan.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Well, I'm not stunned. If you want to stay, we can keep talking. We do have a question.
Okay.
One of the questions is about your loyalty to the Republican Party and the issues that the Republican Party supports.
The loyalty to the Republican Party?
Right. What if you?
Did they bring up any specific issues? Is it pro-life? Is it, Second Amendment?
They didn't mention anything specific.
That's the challenge. For me, myself, I've been a little disappointed in the Republican Party nationally. The way our legislators in Washington have conducted themselves in overabundance of spending. I think they have not held to the fiscally responsible conservative view that the Republican Party traditionally has held. I commit to that. I think we've talked about the budget and the revenues. We also need to talk a little bit about how to be more responsible and spend our dollars here in the state on a wise and effective manner. That's part of the Republican platform is to be fiscally responsible. That I think at the national level the party has really dropped the ball on. Pro-life is obviously a big issue. I think we're all pro-life.
Yes. I'm pro-life, 100%.
And we've had some good debates over things like that. So are there any other Republican planks that?
Well, I agree with you on the national level. The Republican Party certainly has dropped the ball, and that's why we saw the changeover that we saw. And we went from being conservative Republicans to just being Republicans, and the conservative is not part of our name, which was brought up in our breakfast the other morning. And I fully agree with that. And I think every one of us should have Republican, conservative attached to their name. Again, live internet, so anything may happen here. I do have three other issues that we ought to throw in there. Okay. I think we ought to repeal the legislative pay raise. I think we ought to.
Agreed.
Because we're hurting right now is the biggest reason. If the legislature can vote themselves a 62% pay raise, we ought, in a time of proration, we need to cut that.
And the executive branch is pulling themselves back.
Right.
Okay, so.
Right, and that's part of saving the budget and doing the right thing. You know, and again, in out years, maybe like the federal government has a cap on any pay raises. It's a constitutional amendment. We'll cap it at this level per every time that they try to do it. So if we looked at those kinds of things, I think the public would be more happy with us. And as we have to make tough decisions, that you know, we would get the right kind of people elected into the government.
That sounds like responsible government.
A responsible government, exactly. And I think that's what we stand for, which is what the Republican Party stands for.
And I think those are the two planks that we really need someone in Montgomery, someone who is a social conservative and someone who is a fiscal conservative, and who understands those issues on both sides. Because there are a lot of social issues that are going to be coming up and that will continue to come up, even with the pro-life movement. I think that it's an atrocity here in the state that a parent can come in, and whether they are the custodial parent or not, they can sign for a young lady to receive an abortion. There's really no system designed to check to make sure that that individual is the custodial parent. And I think that would be a terrible situation to go through, to find out that you're the custodial parent and your daughter is gone with the non-custodial parent and gone and had such a terrible procedure done. So
well,
I think there are social issues.
Know, by the Privacy Act, you cannot find
out. You can't find out.
And that's got to change.
That has to change. It's done in our district court here locally, you know, and they're going to rule on those 14 and under abortions. And you might be, you know, they were talking about loyalty to causes and so forth. You know, I wouldn't be surprised that there are Republican elected judges who've had to make that decision. Okay, you will never know that because it is sealed. So you get elected to office and you go around and say you are pro-life, okay, but when it comes to that judgment, you made, because you followed a law of the state, okay, and you know, they could have passed the buck and then it would have been appealed at the next level and they would have granted the under 14